long time, right? Staying there for quite a long time. And this lady, went up to the abbot of the monastery, which is Long Pu Fong, and asked Long Pu Fong, I stay in your monastery for so many years. How come I cannot see all those funny things, Whereas all these new yogis come for your retreat, and wow, they say they see this light lah, see that light lah. Then Long Pu Fong will tell this Mei Qi, this lady, wow, you so heng, you so lucky, you so fortunate, you cannot see all this. All the other yogis are so worried for them, right? They see this kind of thing. So there might be, we call it some form of precaution, when a person practices visual kinds of meditation. According to this Iddhipada Vibhanga Sutta, when a person, let's say, practice successfully, we call it a person can develop these 5 higher knowledges, divine eye, divine ear, recollecting past life, what else it is, maybe telekinesis, able to fly, whatever not, mind reading, all those kind of stuff. So if a person doesn't have a good foundation, then when they're able to see all these images, they can't differentiate whether is it their own imagination or is it a real thing, right? So it's a very close, maybe it can be a close mental case, we won't know, right? So it can be not very helpful for certain groups or individual. Whereas Ajahn Jeff has another teacher, which is Ajahn Lee. Ajahn Lee will promote these kind of abilities, right? Again, it appeals to a certain small group of crowd. Okay, and of course, another example would be Ajahn Chah's tradition, Ajahn Chah's tradition. So Ajahn Chah would receive a question from a student or yogi. In the meditation, he sees light. What to do, So, what's the light about? Then Ajahn Chah would take out his torchlight, his flashlight, and then he will point at the student. Then my torchlight also has light, right? So, so a lot of things is whatever formation, right, is just a formation, just the 5 aggregates. So it depends on how you reflect and how you discern them. So similarly, according to Pada Vibhanga Sutta, a person can get enlightened if, let's say, they recollect correctly, right? A lot of this mindfulness involved. So we'll talk about that later. Okay, and in the, let's say in the Mahayana traditions or even the Tibetan traditions, if they were to do visualization exercises, right? Let's say the Tibetan tradition, they have certain visualization, maybe a Buddha image or a Bodhisattva image. They have to sort of visualize before they take up such practices. They have initiation, and before the initiation, they have to do a lot of confession and purification practices. That means they have to do a lot of prostration for maybe thousands of times or chant certain mantras thousands and thousands of times until the mind has enough merit, enough good karma, right? Then they can take on such visualization practices. If not, what will happen is if the intention is wrong or the person doesn't have enough good karma, and let's say they have divine eye, then the things they see will be horror movie, right? Horror movie, all the demons and the evil spirits and whatever not, right? So it won't be helpful for certain individuals. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. It becomes a save screen, screensaver. Terence, is the PowerPoint still up? Okay, all right. Next, okay, so the next one is this thing called in the suttas, they won't mention vipassana samadhi, so it's commentarial term. The third kind of concentration, right, is to develop this mindfulness and alertness. Mindfulness and alertness, right? So this one, how to practice, right? If a person would observe their feelings, their thoughts, right, their perception, how they arise, how they persist, and how they subside, right? So rising and falling, right, basically. So if a person were to observe this for a long time, it will develop another kind of concentration, right? Is more wisdom-based. Okay, and the last slide. Okay, and okay. So the last one will be objectless samadhi. Again, is a commentarial term. If a person were to keep on observing, right, this rising and passing away of these 5 aggregates or the 4 foundation of mindfulness, right, they do it for a long, long time, and they can sort of end, overcome suffering. So this is the final objective of Buddhists, right? So this is the sort of enlightened kind of samadhi. The Buddha sometimes call it sunyata or whatever it is. So sometimes in Buddhism, for those who maybe study Buddhism, there's this thing called the 10 fetters, right? 10 fetters. Now, how can a person overcome, let's say, restlessness or even a form of formless jhanas, right? Only an arahant, an enlightened being, will have this new kind of samadhi, new kind of concentration that is we call objectless or effortless. It's there like 24/7, whatever he does, even if he's sleeping, right? If a person is sleeping, they also have this objectless samadhi. It's mentioned in the Mahasunyata Sutta. So then they won't be attached to other forms of concentration. Okay, so so the whole idea is to develop this wisdom, right? Okay, so but based on the system that we talked about earlier, necessary to develop the jhanas first. Why is it essential to develop the jhanas first? So that the mind will be calm enough before a person observe the 6 sense bases, right? Observe the 5 aggregates, whatever not, without strong concentration base or without no certain level of concentration and calmness, then the next best thing to go to will be sense pleasure, sense stimuli. So a person observe maybe a rising and falling of a contact of the eye, of the ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, any forms, any sounds, any taste that's pleasurable, they can easily develop greed. Very easy to develop greed. Or anything unpleasant, very easy to develop hatred. Right? So when the mind is stuck into this greed or hatred, then the mind will form drama, form imagine movie, fantasize, whatever it is. So very hard to meditate, very hard to observe. Of course, it's not say impossible, it's possible, right? In the some meditators able to do it, but you want to have a head start. Yeah, let's say a person want to practice learning how to ride a bicycle, right? For a child, initially you put on extra wheels at the side, so they will balance. Right? So the jhanic concentration serve this purpose. It's just to act like a kind of emotional kind of balance, right? Before a person pursue this kind of objectless samadhi. I mean these concentrations. Okay, next. Okay, so these 7 factors of enlightenment mentioned in the Satipatthana Sutta, or even the Anapanasati Sutta, or many, many other suttas. When we talk about concentration, is the number 6 factor, right? So when a person develops this rising and falling and investigation of the Dhamma, that is actually developing this kind of concentration. Has nothing to do with the jhana. So it's a different kind of samadhi. Okay, next. Okay, so I'm going to give a few short case studies. Right? First is, let's say concentration on jhanas does not mean no thinking. Like earlier on, we talked about right thought in Buddhism. Right? So when a person does the various levels of concentration, there's the mind still need to put at the one-pointedness. You have to focus on the breath, focus on the impermanence. So you can find this in the sutta, this Panya Vimutti and this Jhana suttas. Yeah, every level of concentration, there's thinking involved, right? Even the very high levels of concentration, even after the 4th jhana and the formless concentration, still need to reflect and contemplate on impermanence. So this is how the Buddha combined in tandem, right? Buddha cross samatha and vipassana practices together. So this is the Buddha's technique. And of course, there's a lot of misconception. People think that, if a person do jhanas, right? You have psychic power, right? You have psychic power. So clearly mentioned in the suttas, there are the 4 kinds of concentrations. So jhana is the first kind. The psychic power is actually the visualization kind, right? So a few case studies would be this about this Venerable Sariputta. Right? Venerable Sariputta is the right-hand man of the Buddha, wisest disciple of the Buddha. So it is known that he does not have any psychic abilities. Right? He does not have any psychic ability. A few case examples would be like a new monk, a new student, right? Came up to Venerable Sariputta, asked for meditation object, and Venerable Sariputta is like, okay, I ask you to do Asubha meditation, impurities in the body. And this fella, this monk, he practiced no progress. See him for the second time, same advice, practice no progress. Then he decided to go and see the Buddha. So the Buddha taught him, the Buddha is able to see that new monk's past life. So it is said that for the past 500 lifetimes, he was a goldsmith. So he's not attached to the body, but he's attached to gold, anything gold and shiny. So he's attached to gold. So the Buddha have to sort of create a golden flower, and ask him to meditate on the golden flower. So he's able to enter concentration and eventually reach enlightenment, right? So this is one example. Another example is Buddha have another cousin called Venerable Bhadia. So Venerable Bhadia is a sort of a new monk compared to Venerable Sariputta. So they crossed paths, they came across each other. So the new monk, this Venerable Bhadia, had to pay respect to Venerable Sariputta. So Sariputta, being the more senior monk and sort of the right-hand disciple of the Buddha, decided to give some Dhamma talk to this Venerable Bhadia. Right? So the Buddha happened to walk past, and then he saw what happened. And he asked Venerable Sariputta to stop, and asked him to come over, and told him, this Venerable Bhadia is already enlightened, right? You don't have to give him Dhamma talk. Yeah? So this was another case example. So another case example is these two mentioned in this, how do you call it, the slides, right? So Anupada Sutta mentions about how the Buddha praised Venerable Sariputta for being able to enter all the levels of concentration, right, from the first jhana all the way to the 8th jhana and reach enlightenment. So this is Venerable Sariputta, but he doesn't have any psychic ability. So this is the Jhannas Sutta is this case contrast example between him, Venerable Sariputta, and another monk, his left-hand disciple, Buddha's left-hand disciple, Venerable Mahamoggallana, which is the monk that is foremost in psychic power. Right? So both of these two monks, the left and right-hand disciple of the Buddha, were meditating in a cave. This Venerable Sariputta was meditating at the mouth of the cave. That means it's at the entrance, facing the sky. Whereas Venerable Moggallana was meditating inside the cave in the pitch darkness. Right? So what happened, according to stories, 2 angels, or rather 2 demons, flew past in the sky, 2 yakas, right? Flew past, and they saw a shiny head from outside the cave, right? From the sky, they saw a shiny head, right? Some monk meditating outside. So one of the yakas feel the hand itchy, want to whack the head. So he took out the club, his weapon, and he hit Venerable Sariputta in the head, and they escaped, they flew off. And Venerable Moggallana, the one sitting inside the cave, saw what happened, quickly rushed out and asked Venerable Sariputta, "Are you okay?" No, shake him. "Are you okay? No, are you okay?" And Venerable Sariputta is like, "I have a bit of headache." Yeah. Then Venerable Moggallana was asking him, "Do you see what happened earlier on?" Then Sariputta said, "No, I didn't see what happened. Can you tell me what happened?" So Venerable Moggallana told him, these 2 yakas flew past, and one of them hit your head, and they flew off. So the Venerable Sariputta was like, "Oh, amazed! Wow, you can see. I cannot see." Yeah, so Venerable Sariputta was saying he cannot see a thing. He cannot see anything. So he praised Venerable Moggallana for his purified divine eye. right? So this was the story. And for consolation, Venerable Moggallana also praised Venerable Sariputta, oh, your wisdom and concentration very strong. Yeah, if not, any ordinary being, right, when after being hit, the head will be split into 7 pieces, right? You just have a slight headache. So, so a person, when we talk about the topic of being possessed by spirits or being harassed by spirits or demons or whatever it is. So if a person were to meditate, right? So this is the best form of protection. Were to meditate and have wisdom, have concentration, and this is the best form of protection. Okay, so this is the end of the case study, right? So I will sort of stop here for early Q&A, right? So we have more time for the guided session later. Right, so we can open the floor actually. Yeah. So can you all pick up the questions?
Good afternoon, Bante.
Yes.
Casey, yeah, I
right.
got a question. From your morning session, you talk about the 3 different techniques of meditation, Asubha, then followed by
Metta.
Anapanasati,
Yeah.
and then lastly the Metta radiation.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So is that to be done in that sequence, or can we do other sequence, like we could do Anapanasati first, then do the radiation, and then do the Asubha?
No problem. Depends on the condition, right? If a person's mind is scattered, yeah, then definitely you can do the breath first or doing some samatha to calm down the mind, right? So it depends on the condition, right? So the guided session is more like just a guided template.
Okay. Then the question on Asubha, this is the first time I'm following a technique which is a little bit different from the previous thought techniques.
Okay, all right.
You mentioned about the hair, but
yeah.
Usually we start with head hair, body hair.
Yeah, correct.
So is it okay if we just use the head hair, body hair rather than just hair in general?
Yeah. So that's why I combine them together. So I sort of scan from head to toe. So you cover the head hair and then followed by the body hair.
Right. Okay. Then usually the method that Bante was talking about, we tend to reflect on the well-being, then followed by
we have metta first, followed by impermanence. Yeah.
Impermanence, yeah. Then followed by the last one is what last one was
asking a question, right?
The self thing, right?
Yeah. Question about actually on non-self.
right. Okay. Yeah. So is that 3 linked to that the Tilakkhana thinking? Is it linked to that process?
Yeah, can be linked to that. Yeah.
Okay. So during this is the everything is like lumped together in the whole sitting session.
I lump a few. Yeah, I lump a few. Like I have loving kindness also inside. Because if a person doesn't mix, right? So if let's say they just purely do Asubha, that means just purely view the hair, the teeth, the skin, and they want to start to go deeper, the bones, the flesh, the blood, and all this kind of stuff. Then if they do not have, let's say, balanced mind, have loving kindness or think of impermanence, the tendency, the mind might cling, right? Might cling to aversion, right? Might cling to aversion. They hate the body. So any meditation when a person practice can fall into the extremes. It's not like meditation very safe. Can practice, nothing will go wrong. In the Buddha's time, in this Vesali Sutta, there are a group of monks who practice this Asubha meditation until they get depression or they decide to commit suicide. Yeah, so it can be that bad. So meditation have to be balanced in the middle way. So even the breath meditation also can be extreme, right? So in the Buddha's time, the Buddha was practicing when he was practicing asceticism, right? He was practicing an extreme form of breath meditation, which is to torture himself. It's recorded that when he breathe in, right, then he want to suffocate himself, then he doesn't want to breathe out. And when he breathe out, he want to blow out hard and damage his nostrils, damage his eyeballs, and that kind of stuff. So this is the another extreme, right, of breath meditation. So any meditation can be practiced in an extreme manner. So the whole idea is to first have right view, right? We need to find the balance, the middle way, before we engage in any meditation practice. Yep.
So usually, Bhante, our sitting session is not very long, like about 45 minutes. So is it recommended that we just stay with one of the three that Bhante has mentioned, or should we do 2 or 3?
Yeah, each meditation, they specialize in overcoming certain defilement better, right? So like for the Asubha meditation is overcoming greed or lust, right? So this one is a very effective technique. And if a person were to do loving kindness meditation, is effective against overcoming hatred. And for the breath is for a scattered mind.
So that means, Bhante, the method that we choose for our sitting will depend on the state of our mind. So we have a scattered mind, we do anapanasati. If we've got angry mind, we do this, we do that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Bhante.
Yeah, but if a person were to just practice it as a whole, then I combine. Yeah, that's why I add the metta element and the impermanence element, so that if a person just want to just solely practice one meditation object, at least it's a bit more holistic. Yeah.
Thanks, Bhante. Thanks, Bhante.
All right, no problem.
Okay, Bhante, there's a question from Facebook.
Okay, sure.
By Hai Ing Wee.
Okay.
How can meditation guide us to have good, happy thought at the moment of death? Can chanting a mantra help at the moment of death to attain a good rebirth?
Okay, so again, chanting of mantras is part of the recollections, like we mentioned earlier. So if let's say you miss the first part of the talk, you can rewatch from the Facebook video. So at the beginning, we mentioned there are like more than 40 meditation objects. So chanting on the mantras, depending on who you are recollecting, will produce, right, this wholesome, positive mind state, very positive. So a person were to keep on repeating, you will develop concentration, you will develop, we call it the jhanas first. But beyond that, if a person were to recollect and sort of contemplate on other more refined, deeper dhammas, deeper truths, right? Or observe the impermanence, and they can develop wisdom. So by chanting these mantras, there are various steps. And eventually, if a person has wisdom, right, this objectless kind of concentration, then at the moment of death, then you're sort of very safe, right? It doesn't matter what happens if a person comes. So there's a case study, this monk in the Buddha's time, Venerable Bahiya, B-A-H-I-Y-A, I think, yeah. So this is the monk that reached enlightenment the fastest. He's supposed to be a ascetic practitioner from another sect, another religion. So certain deity came and informed him, hey, there's a Buddha in town. Come, you can, if you learn from him, you can reach enlightenment. So he's so happy, he wanted to go and see the Buddha, quickly, travel across his district and quickly, try to find the Buddha. So the Buddha was on his arms round, right? The Buddha was on his arms round. So he asked a question of how to sort of reach enlightenment, right? How to reach enlightenment. So the Buddha was in arms round. So according to the monastic ethics, in arms round we cannot teach, right? It becomes a form of trade, right? You give me food and I give you Dhamma teaching. So it becomes a form of trade. So it's by right, the monks or even the Buddha, they normally don't teach, right? They're supposed to keep noble silence. So, but this fella, this Bahiya, was very persistent, very persistent. So he kept asking second time, the third time, and the Buddha was looking at him. How come he keep asking him, even though he rejected, right? So he looked at him and the Buddha is able to see that this person is going to die very soon. Yeah, his lifespan is going to end very soon. So the Buddha, out of compassion, then he taught a very short teaching, talking about the six sense basis on non-self, and he got enlightened. He got enlightened after the sermon, right? Very fast. So the Buddha said, he's the fastest to reach enlightenment. So, and this fella, Bahia, wanted to become a monk under the Buddha's lineage, right? So the Buddha asked him, do you have a robe and a bowl? He doesn't have, right? So he had to go back to his hometown. When he went back halfway, he was knocked down by a bull. A bull just came from nowhere, ran and killed him, right? So death can happen anytime, an accident, right? So there's no time to prepare and make your mind calm, sit in full lotus, or turn on your radio or a cassette tape and have nice environment, light up incense. No time, right? So a person have to train the mind when it's pure. That means it's ready, right? So when the Buddha talked about the law of karma, any heavy karma, a good heavy karma, that will take precedence first. Right, so I hope that answers your question, right?
All right. That's one question. Two questions from me, but just now
Right.
you are sharing about the jhanas. You mean this first to fourth jhana was found by Buddha? You mean those ascetic, they can just go fifth to eighth without
Yeah.
Oh, you
The
don't
Buddha
have to go
discovered.
one step at a time.
Yeah, it's got to do with the nature of the different meditation objects. Some meditation objects, they are sort of designed to go into formula straight away. Yeah. So only for the breath meditation is possible to go from the first and the second and third and the fourth, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Then one more thing, there's the view that there's argument that you need jhanas to become stream enterer.
Oh, not necessary. Not necessary. Not necessary.
How about arahant?
Arahant. Okay. That's why in the Panya Vimutti Sutta, there's also mentioned even in the every level, right? Regardless of level, if a person were to reflect correctly, right, then able to sort of reach enlightenment, right? So it doesn't. It's not necessary. Not necessary. So a few short cases would be this. Yeah, these are more commentarial stories, but never mind. But like this Chula Pantaka, there's this monk who is very intellectually challenged, right? So he's supposed to, he can't memorize anything. So the Buddha asked him to, just take a cloth and wipe something in his room or something. Then he's able to, reach enlightenment just by, flipping a cloth and, he attain something, right? A lot of case studies. Sometimes Buddha give a sermon and somebody got reach various degrees of sainthood.
All right.
Okay, a very good case example you can find in this Upajjhatana Sutta. Earlier on, I mentioned, right, there are 5 contemplation exercises. I am subject to aging. Aging is unavoidable. That's contemplation number 1. Contemplation number 2, I am subject to sickness. Sickness is unavoidable. Right? I'm subject to death. Number 3, death is unavoidable. I'm going to be separated from what is dear and near to me, right? So it's unavoidable. And the number 5th is recollection on karma, right? I'm the head of my karma. Whatever I do, good or evil, I will fall here, right? So these 5 contemplation exercise the Buddha mentioned, be it a layman, lay women, monk or nun, right? If they practice any of the 5 contemplation exercises, towards the end of the sutta, the Buddha mentioned a person can reach enlightenment, full enlightenment. And then there's another case scenario, this Salayaka Sutta, the Brahmins of Sala. just observing the 5 precepts and observing the sila, right? So the sila no sati, observing the precepts very well. Upon death, a person can even aspire, to just be an arhat. That's provided you observe your precept really well. Yeah.
How come before Buddha's time there wasn't any anybody that found this path during this era?
Okay, so like the dhammas, there's always also impermanence, no? This discovery of the dhamma. That's why we need the Buddhas around, right? There's dhamma degeneration and human degeneration. After some time, people won't practice correctly, or they are complacent. Then the teachings or the method will be lost. And then whoever first rediscover it, then become a Sammasambuddha or Pacceka Buddha. Yeah.
Okay. There's a question from Hai Eng again. Since
Alright.
Buddhists do not believe in a soul, may I know what is reborn?
Okay.
Okay. But the answer first?
Okay. This is a very, again, very long topic, right? To put it in short, I will give a very simple analogy example. In the Zen tradition, right, they like to give this example of Zen master writing a poem. So he write it in 3 phases, 3 poems. So the first poem he wrote before he learned Buddhism, mountains were mountains, 看山是山, yeah. So this is the first verse he wrote. And the second verse he wrote when he started to learn Buddhism, mountains are not mountains. Mountains are not mountains, right? 看山不是山. Then the third verse he wrote, 看山又是山. That means after he really understood Buddhism, understood Zen, that means probably after he got enlightened, mountains are again mountains, right? Okay, so to answer the question on the soul is, I'm using a bit of this analogy. So initially, like any person, we just say, oh, what is reborn? Can be a soul, can be a mind, can be a consciousness, whatever it is, whatever label you call it, right? An unenlightened person, whatever belief, whether there's a rebirth or no rebirth, interestingly, is considered a wrong view. Considered a wrong view. If a person is still not yet enlightened, in the first, I think in the Brahmajala Sutta, Digha Nikaya, long discourse, the number first Digha Nikaya, right? Brahmajala Sutta. The Buddha mentioned all kinds of views. Even people can see past life. Also wrong view if they have not reached enlightenment, right? So a person don't believe in afterlife. Also, it can be a wrong view if they still have suffering. If they still have greed and hatred, still have suffering, consider a wrong view. Okay, so then if a person start to learn Buddhism, then they start to label, we don't call it one fixed soul, because Theravada Buddhism is called the school of analysis. We like to break things up. So it's not one fixed soul, it's many kinds of consciousness, rising, passing, and whatever. So that's where it all comes in. So the Buddhists believe in impermanent, ever-changing, reappearing consciousness, whatever you call it. So this is the term when the Buddhists are practicing Buddhism. Buddhists are practicing Buddhism. Again, if a person is not yet enlightened, is still considered a wrong view. But eventually, if a person reach enlightenment, it doesn't matter what you call it. You can call it a soul and call it a consciousness, whatever it is. All right, so hopefully I answered the question. So the argument is always between a person who thinks they are practicing Buddhism, then they they want to talk about ever-changing consciousness, and then argue the whatever fixed soul or whatever it is, the different terms. Right. The fact is, if a person after death, if there is rebirth, right, then there's rebirth taking place. Right. It doesn't matter whether you believe in a soul or a consciousness or whatever it is. A rebirth is still a rebirth. Right.
Okay. Second and third part. Is it our mind consciousness or karmic energy that is reborn? Is
Okay.
this karmic energy or mind consciousness permanent until we gain enlightenment?
Okay, I've covered that already. I've covered that already. Okay, so later in the guided session, later there's a Vipassana segment. Then when the mind is firm and strong, then you can observe, right? Observe this arising and passing away thought moment. Okay, if you want to do an example, a sample now, I can do so. Okay, we can raise a finger, right? Everyone raise a finger. Point. Where is your attention now? Where are you paying attention now? Is it up in the sky all the time? Where is your attention now? Right. So the attention is always moving, correct? I know some people want to stay stay up all the time. Maybe you can't catch, but never mind. Okay. The idea is our attention is always running around, right? So this is, we call it karmic formation, mental formation, volition, right? It's always moving around, moving all the time. So this is observable, your personal observation, your own evidence, whether is it permanent or is it ever changing, right? So at the death moment, the same thing. All right. Okay. Next question.
One day I just want to find out why sometimes after practice I need time to recall back. I feel like when I come out for meditation, my mind is blank.
All right. Depends on what kind of meditation you're doing. Right? But if the mind is calm, then should be a good thing, right?
Yeah, but when I come out from meditation, I feel like I need time to recall back. Because sometimes I don't even know where I am, you see.
Mm. Yeah, again, depends on what kind of meditation you're doing. So if you're doing the, let's say, concentration kind of meditation, sometimes you're too absorbed, then you might take time to readjust back. Right? Or another possibility would be a person, let's say they fall asleep, they wake up, then you also, like, what time is it? They are not aware. So there are various possibilities, right? So only you yourself will know the situation, right?
Okay, thank you.
Bante,
Yes.
earlier, leading to Terrence's question just now,
Yeah.
He was asking about jhana linking
Yeah.
to liberation, to be liberated.
Mm-hmm.
And Bante says that you don't need even a single jhana. Am I right? Did I hear it correctly that you don't even need jhana one, first jhana, even for liberation? You can
Yeah,
be
it
liberated
is.
without.
Yeah, it is possible. Yeah, but under very positive conditions. Under very positive conditions. Yeah, it is possible.
Mm.
But for most people, I will recommend, or majority, to develop some form of concentration first. At least it's easier. Yeah.
Right.
It's like, let's say a person were to travel from destination A to destination B, maybe from Malaysia to, from Singapore to Klang or Klang to Singapore, right? You want to travel. So let's say a person without jhana is, let's say, like traveling by foot. It's possible you can travel, but probably take a longer time. By a person, let's say they have these jhanas, right? A person can sort of, they drive a car and they have different gears, so different levels of jhanas, like using different gears. Another good example will be this Asubha Sutta. Asubha Sutta, the Buddha mentioned if a person were to practice Asubha, impurities of the body, they can reach liberation, but it's a painful path. Versus a person doing jhanas, right? And doing jhanas is a person is a pleasant path, right?
Mm. But we have been constantly reminded to see things in its true nature. For us to be liberated, we have to see things in its true nature. And then for us to realize the true nature, we need to have the stillness of the mind. It's not like, for example, going old. We all know we will go old, but we don't get this stuck in ourselves, is it? We don't like we don't have a buy-in.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
how could we practice? How could we practice without the without that deep concentration? How do we can have a buy-in without the deep concentration? We could have a buy-in, but our buy-in could be very weak. It's a weak buy-in. But when the time comes, we are still stuck with our clinging.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, we need higher forms of we call it heavy or strong positive karma, right? If not, we will tend to cling on to sensual kind of stimuli, right? The sense sphere stimuli. That would be the next best thing to go to. So earlier on we talked about objectless concentration. That would be the ideal goal. So if a person were to observe impermanence, let's say they do not have jhanas as a foundation, and they just observe impermanence, whatever meditation they do, even let's say they're doing this Asupa meditation, right? Then if the mind, let's say they develop certain insight, their desire is reduced, right? When their desire is reduced, then you develop calmness. So the samadhi is a different kind of samadhi from the jhana kind of samadhi. Yeah, so that is another kind of stillness. And if you want to talk about jhanic kind of samadhi, which requires this one-pointedness of the mind, that means or repetition, can be repeating mantras or even focusing on the breath. So a person might develop the jhanas, right? So that is we call it conditioned jhanas. That means you need a condition to fix the mind for this spiritual kind of happiness. Right. So later in the meditation, guided meditation, I will sort of practice the two to have a kind of distinguish, make your distinguish. At least know the difference. So once the mind is calm from the jhanic concentration, then there's the vipassana kind of meditation where a person is undirected, the mind is autopilot and scattered. Then using that as a unconditioned kind of state to develop an unconditioned mind. So we're using that condition to develop an unconditioned mind. So even without paying attention to something, can you still have detachment? So this is the whole idea. All right. Yeah. So this is just a short theoretical explanation. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions from Facebook? Okay, if not, then we have...
There is one more, I think.
One more, okay.
Yeah, Didi Terence, can you look at the WhatsApp? You're muted, Terence.
The same person. Is collective or group karma one of the reasons many people are suffering from COVID-19? How can we minimize the impact of collective or good karma? Group karma.
Okay.
How do we guide a person who is in coma to meditate and have good thoughts before death?
Okay. Like mentioned, right? Actually, sickness is part of life, right? So have to experience aging, sickness, and death is everyone's experience, right? It's all beings who experience this. So this is everybody's karma, right? Everybody's karma. And collective karma is hard to say because it's a large scale. Yeah, it's the whole earth. So like everybody will go through aging and eventually death. So this is in a way you can call it collective karma. And what's the second question again?
How do we guide a person who is in coma,
okay,
to meditate and have good
because
thoughts before death?
If a person is in coma, we have to take into account they might not be able to hear us, right, or might not be able to see us. So the only sort of thing they can sort of the receptiveness is got to do with the sense of feel, right? So that we only can base on that sense of feeling, right? Sense of feeling. So basically a sense of like the emotion or mental frequency. So the whole idea is the last thing you want to do is to go beside the coma patient and give a sermon, right? They won't understand, right? What you can do is make your mind in a positive or wholesome state of mind. So if let's say if you can give a sermon until your mind can come down, then by all means, your mind come down, then it will affect the coma patient, right? It will affect the coma patient. So if let's say a person, let's say they beside the coma patient, they do chanting, chant, make sure you chant until your mind come down. That's the whole idea. So they can reciprocate and feel the calmness. So this is the whole idea. All right.
Okay, that's another question from Brother Kelvin Oy. Dear
Okay.
Bante, how does one know his, her attainment of jhana?
Okay. Yeah, this is a very very tricky question, right? Because initially during the Buddha's time, at least there's the Buddha and the enlightened monks who can confirm with you, right? They can guide you, and some of them might have certain abilities, to certify that okay, you have reached this level, right? So currently now there's maybe very few or even very few such practitioners around. So the only thing we can depend in this the sutta definition. So earlier on the PowerPoint slide, we can see the chart, right? We can go back to the chart. The chart is gone. Okay, so never mind. The chart on the 4 levels of concentration. So each chart will have a different kind of emotion, right? So hopefully you can join in the guided session so that we can, you can try out the routine, right? Yeah, so this is the chart. So each level will have different kind of emotion, right? So later in the guided session, what I will do is, because this is a live stream, right? So everybody will have different rate of settling down the mind. Maybe some people are sleeping or whatever, yeah, some people are restless. So I cannot guarantee, everybody can achieve this. I will just give a standard time frame, step 1, maybe for a few minutes. Then once I think it's ready, I will maybe move on to step 2. And after a few minutes, I'll move on to step 3, something like that. So you try to follow, right? If you can experience it, then good for you. If you can't, then the whole idea is to keep practicing. It's a routine, just like a skill, any kind of skill. Maybe let's say a musician, right? You learn a musical instrument. They play the same piece of music over and over again until they become a virtuoso. So a lot of things require practice, right? So this is the best I can tell you. Yeah. Okay, next. Any questions?
Is euthanasia a right action for a person who is in coma for more than 3 years?
Euthanasia. Okay, yeah, this is a question. For monks, right, we cannot promote ending of life. Yeah, it's against our monastic rule, right? So for monastic answer, I will tell you no, right? But for as a family, for yourself, let's say as a relative of the person that's in whatever situation, there's a lot of factors in play, right? Sometimes got to do with sometimes the financial burden of a person. Does it cause more deaths of other family members, by not being able to pay? So there are other factors in charge, right? Other factors in play. So you have to view all these factors and know yourself very well. But when you talk about coming to terms with death, I would still recommend, if let's say a person is still awake, I would recommend a person to have proper pain management. Don't just end the life like that, right? Because by ending, sometimes the state of mind is usually negative, then they want to end the life, right? If a person able to accept nature, whatever pain that arises, they're able to observe the changes of the pain, the intensity of the pain coming and going until they totally accept, right? Accept their natural outcome, right? Whatever it is. So they don't have to artificially end their life, right? They can accept the pain and go through the normal natural death process. So this will be the most ideal, right? And this will create less, we call it negative, unwholesome karma. All right.
All right. How can intonation affect rebirth?
Yeah. So like mentioned earlier, it's got to do with the state of mind. If let's say the person is still awake and wants to end their life, right? Normally they come from these very unhappy with their life or whatever it is, they're very depressed with their life, they want to end their life now. So it's a very unwholesome, negative frame of mind. So if we believe in rebirth, so having this negative frame of mind, when they are reborn, most probably in a very unpleasant, negative kind of realm, negative kind of rebirth. So we don't want that to happen. Right? So the whole idea is still proper pain management. I will not encourage euthanasia. Yeah. All right. Any other questions?
Monday, it is okay if you advise a sick person, they almost like they got cancer person, to let go of their life, instead of keep on suffering.
Yeah, this one is got to do with again proper pain management, right? So sometimes there are a lot of these medical practices, right? The modern, maybe the cancer or medical industry, right? There are certain treatments which may not be so effective because these are more modern inventions. Because in the Buddha's time, there's no such thing as radioactive therapy and whatever not. So if a person it's time to die, they get sick, and they just wait for the time to die, right? So this is the ancient way of handling pain, right? So again, it's up to the family's choice, right? Ideally, if let's say they can't afford the medical bills or whatever, and they are still the patient is still alive, right? Awake and alive, and it's good to have proper pain management, right? For the family members, the relatives, to gather around and console the patient, right? So this is the ideal emotional upliftment.
Is there any consequences to the advisor?
Consequences to what?
The one who advise.
To the advice.
Yeah, because this is my sister case, is in a coma. You can
Coma.
you can see her suffering. Then I just sit beside her and advise her to let go, instead of keep on suffering. Then after that, after that a few minutes, then he just passed away.
Okay, yeah. This one is they themselves naturally let go. Yeah, it's not you pull out the plug. It's different, right? So they are mentally they are prepared. Oh, they already let go. It's different from pulling out the life sustaining equipment. It's different. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that's nothing wrong. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. So any other questions? Okay. If not, then we move on to the sitting. Yeah, the sitting session. So you'll find a comfortable posture. So hopefully we can have enough time, yeah, hopefully. And I hope most of the participants have gone through the first segment, the homework, which is to ask you to maintain, right, loving kindness. So I think by the lecture, maybe most of you lost the loving kindness already. Right, is to uplift the mind. So it's easier to enter concentration. Right? One of the benefits of loving kindness. So even before the Buddha discovered the 4 levels of concentration, he was also examining wholesome states of mind, unwholesome states of mind. So you need a wholesome state of mind as a groundwork, a framework, yeah, before they can enter concentration. All right, so hopefully after the talk and the Q&A, and your mind is more positive and sort of more uplifted, then we can start with the meditation. Okay, so we're going to close our eyes, find a comfortable posture and sit down. There's a few more people coming in, right? So we welcome them. Now we started the sitting session. Okay, so once you find a good posture, relax your whole body. Okay, so this time we are going to wish our entire body, right, well and happy from head to toe. So we start to feel, right? Don't need to visualize it, only feel. Using the sense of touch, we feel our head all the way down to our feet slowly. So starting from the head, our skull, right? Any sensation you feel, whatever sensation it is, we classify in the 4 elements: earth, fire, wind, and water. Earth being hard and soft sensations, fire being warm and cold, wind, fast and slow movements, water being moisture, right? So when you start to feel from head to toe, any sensation that's obvious to you, you just wish that sensation well and happy. The whole idea is not to fight the sensation, right, which is aversion, and not to cling onto the sensation, which is to have greed, right? Oh, this sensation so nice, I want it more. So you try to pursue it. So this is greed. So you're trying to practice the middle path, right? So you're watching the sensations from head to toe, then down to your eyes. Any sensation that come and go, you wish it well and happy. Just like a guest, yeah, bypasser. And then to your cheeks. And to your jaw. And down to your neck. And then to your shoulders. And your left arm. Wish every sensation well and happy as they come and go. And your right arm. And then your chest. And then to your abdomen. And the rest of your back. So the entire torso, the chest and the back, right? And your hip region. Wishing your hips well and happy. Every sensation that come and go. And then your left leg, your thighs, down to your calves, then to your toes. Wish them well and happy for every sensation that come and go. And then your right leg and the thighs, down to the calves, and to the feet, and to the toes. Right? Every sensation come and goes. Wish them well and happy. Okay, once you're attuned to the body, that means your entire body from head to toe, right? There's no sort of pushing or pulling of the mind. That means you're at peace, right? With the whole body in general. And then we go back to the breath, which is feeling, right? We feel below the nostril, above the upper lip. So we're trying to develop this single pointedness of the mind. Yeah. So when you breathe in and out, no need to control your breathing. Let it be your natural reflex action when you breathe in and out. Whenever there's inhalation, wish the breath well. Exhalation, wish the breath happy. Thoughts of non-hatred, right? Loving kindness, thoughts of non-greed, and detachment would be observing, right, the impermanence of the elements of the breath. Every in and out breath, there's very micro cycles of birth and death taking place. So every change of the sensation of the breath, there's birth and death going on. So when you breathe in and out, any changes in the density of the air, and change in hardness and softness, that's the birth and death of the earth element. Fire being the warm and cold. So when you breathe in and out, any hot and cold changes in temperature, birth and death of the fire element. Wind element being the fast and slow, long and short movements. Change in the breathing rate. And the water being the moisture, moist or dry. So whichever sensation you feel at that point, below the nostril, above the upper lip, no need to purposely generate or create any kind of sensation. Whichever sensation is very obvious, just let it come and go and wish it well and happy. So this is the most important step in the entire breath meditation, because this will last throughout the entire concentration practice. So I'll give an example. Let's say the whole idea of concentration or single pointedness is to not get distracted, right? It's to unify the mind. The mind is always scattered. So I give an example. Let's say if a person goes to take a public transportation, say a bus or a train, and let's say it's crowded with people, right? So that's before the MCO and the lockdown, whatever it is. So if there's so many people, everyone is doing their own activity, right? They can be talking on the phone, talking to each other, and whatever not. So if you are traveling alone, right? The thing that wastes all your energy would be to react to every conversation that every passenger is taking part in. If you were to start talking and replying to everyone's conversation, then you're basically, wasting your energy, right? So in concentration meditation is the same thing. When we are sort of feeling the breath and the impermanence of the breath, there are thousands and thousands of stimuli going on. Right? Your heart is beating, and your saliva is swallowing, whatever it is, right? So there are many, many things going on, your nervous system everywhere. You don't have to react or care any of them. Okay, so if let's say your attention happens to run to another place, just come back to that point, right? Below the nostril, above the upper lip, and observe impermanence, right? That means the rising and falling or the birth and death of the breath. First, this being right thought, engaging in right thought. Second, helps to keep the mind awake, right? If the mind nothing to do, most probably end up in la la land and fall asleep. By observing impermanence of the breath, is a kind of natural kind of Teflon, and it's non-stick. So the mind will produce this detachment, and the mind will continue to settle down. So the whole idea is to observe impermanence until the mind settles to what I call this thing called stability point. Stability point, which means the mind settles until it cannot settle anymore. Or the rate of settling is so negligible, right? Okay, once the mind has reached a stability point, okay, for those who have reached stability point, then you familiarize yourself with this emotion. Familiarize yourself with this base point. At ground level, what is this emotion like? So basically remember, or rather enjoy also this emotion when the mind is calm. Yeah, not forgetting the impermanence of the breath. Okay, once you have a feel or have a taste of this, the base point, right? At ground zero, right? Supposed to be, most probably it's a very bland kind of feeling, but still peaceful, right? So you just take note of this. Then we can proceed to the next step. So how we are going to do is, we are going to make a wish in our mind, right? We can just make a wish by saying, may I let go of this state of mind. Just like a child letting go of a balloon. So basically you release this mind. So when you release the mind will evolve naturally by itself to another level. So you just be a passive observer, yeah, don't have to push anything, yeah. The mind will transit naturally by itself. You just need to observe the change of emotion. So if your mind have reached the first level of this concentration, pleasant emotion will manifest. Right? A pleasant emotion will manifest. So what you need to do is be mindful of this emotion and simultaneously be mindful of the impermanence of the breath. So two things, yeah? Mindful of the emotion, which are the jhana factors in theory, and the impermanence of the breath, which is the one-pointedness. Continue to do this until the mind reach stability point. Okay, once your mind is rather calm or reach stability point, that means the rate of settling is like so negligible until you cannot settle any further. Then you familiarize yourself with the first level of concentration. And basically is to remember this emotion of the first level when the mind is calm. Once you have tasted the first level of concentration, right? Of course, in your own free time, you can do as long as you want. In this routine, I will sort of proceed, right, for the sake of group timing. Then it's a bit like changing gear when driving a car. So when the condition is right, when the mind is calm, then you can change gear, right? So you can make another wish in your mind. May I let go of the first level of concentration, just like a child letting go of a balloon. So once you release the mind will evolve naturally by itself to another level. So your job is just to be a passive observer and don't have to push anything, but just to observe the transition and the change of emotion. Okay, once a person has sort of reached the second level of concentration, slightly a different grade of pleasant emotion will manifest, right? So you just be mindful of this emotion while simultaneously be mindful of the impermanence of the breath. Right? So two things, mindful of the emotion, which is the jhana factors or the second level, and mindful of this one-pointedness, the impermanence of the breath, until the mind settles to this stability point. Okay, once the mind has settled to this stability point, right, that means the mind settle or the rate of settling is so negligible and it cannot settle anymore, then you familiarize yourself with the second level of concentration. So basically that is to remember this emotion Okay, once you have tasted, right, the second level of concentration, or roughly know how it feels like, right, the second level of concentration, remember the emotion, and when the mind is calm, then we can proceed to the next level. What we can do is make another wish in your mind. May I let go of the second level of concentration, just like a child letting go of a balloon. So the mind will evolve naturally by itself to the third level of concentration. And what we need to do is just be a passive observer, just observe the transition of the mind and how the emotion change without exerting or doing anything. Once the mind has reached the third level, right, then a new pleasant kind of emotion will manifest. Right, so be mindful of this emotion and simultaneously be mindful of the impermanence of the breath. Continue this process until the mind settles to stability point. Okay, once the mind has calmed down to this stability point, and that means the mind, the rate of settling is so negligible that it cannot settle further, then you familiarize yourself with the third level of concentration. And that is to say, to remember this emotion of the third level when the mind is calm. And once you have tasted the third level of concentration, you have remembered this emotion, and when the mind is calm, and then we can proceed to the next step. So we can again make a wish. May I let go of the third level of concentration, just like a child letting go of a balloon. So that once you release the mind, it will evolve naturally by itself to the fourth level of concentration. So we just need to sit back and observe the transition, the change of emotion. So once the mind has reached the fourth level of concentration, right, a new kind of emotion will manifest. Most probably, you might not have experienced it before for first timers. That will be the emotion of equanimity. So the equanimity has neither pleasure nor pain, neither pleasure nor joy, right? So the pleasant kind of emotions earlier is gone. So this equanimity probably can be described as a kind of refreshing kind of emotion. So you just be mindful of this equanimity, this emotion, and be mindful of the impermanence of the breath, two things. And continue this process until the mind settles down to this stability point. So once the mind has reached stability point, that is to say the rate of settling is so negligible and the mind cannot settle any further, then you just familiarize yourself with the fourth level of concentration. And basically it's to remember this emotion So basically, this is just a temporary recharge of the battery, right? So what we can do next is once you remember this emotion, we are going to go in the reverse direction, right? So instead of going up, we go down. So we make a wish. May I go back down to the third level of concentration. Just observe the transition, the change of emotion at the third level, and be mindful of impermanence of the breath. And once you think the mind is calm enough, right, they observe the transition already, then we can go down further, right? So from 3, then we go down to 2. I make a wish, may I go down to the second level. So observe the transition, the change of emotion, and be mindful of the impermanence of the breath. And if you want to know what is the what is this vitaka vichara about, the sustained and applied thoughts, then when your mind is calm at the second level, then you can go down, right? Make a wish, go down to the first level of concentration. So you just observe this transition, change of emotion, and mindful of impermanence of the breath. Okay, and then when your mind is calm, right, then you can go down to this ground zero, make a wish, yeah, may my mind come back down to base level. And just observe the transition, observe the change of emotion and be mindful of the impermanence of the breath. Okay, once you are at base level, ground level, right, should be no more pleasant emotion. That means bland emotion, and yeah, that means you're back to the sense sphere, and we are going to now feel your entire body, right? Just start to feel your rest of your hands, your feet. So I have like 1 more minute. So we are going to, before we end the session, another round of homework, which is to radiate the loving kindness in all directions. We are going to wish all beings in all directions well and happy. I just make a general wish. We wish all beings well and happy. And all beings in the entire world, in the entire universe. May all beings be well and happy. And then you try to maintain, right? Maintain this loving kindness, yeah, throughout yourself. Practice, or even if you're self-practice, you want to go up and down the different levels of concentration also can. Yeah, so we have until what time? Until 4:30. Yeah, 4:30 is my next session. Yep. Okay, so yeah, okay, see you all again. Okay.
Bye-bye. So this session will end now. We'll be back on again 15 minutes before 4:30. Bye-bye.